We can bring in France 24's international affairs editor, Armen, Georgian. Armen, what is Ukraine's president asking for from France?
Well, he's asking for more weapons, more anti-tank weapons, as well as air defense systems. And he's also asking for French companies to leave, those that are still doing business in Russia to leave. So obviously the demands for weapons, that is something that he's made to other NATO members. And then the reference to certain French companies that are still operating there was, perhaps the most specific thing that he tailored to France in terms of actual concrete measures that he was asking for.
Now, clearly he's been doing this a lot. Volodymyr Zelensky, the war has gone on for a month now. Just today alone, I think he spoke to Japan's parliament. On Sunday, he addressed the Knesset. He seems to make his speeches depending on the country he's addressing, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, absolutely. To be honest, I thought the
tone,
I think he was showing a lot more signs of stress than in other parliamentary addresses I've seen. It didn't seem to be quite such a fighting performance as before, for example, Congress, where it was really punchy. There was a video that he played of actually showing atrocities, ending on this message of close the sky, and also just to contrast his speech to Congress, which we covered live, the video link. He took the sort of broad sweep of history, everything ranging from Martin Luther King Jr. to Pearl Harbor to 9/11. I didn't get that same sense of a kind of a historical sweep in this address. I thought there was some slightly, compared to other addresses, to other parliaments, there were slightly more token references, it seemed to me, to Verdun, sure, the battle.
And how he ended his speech as well.
Yeah, but it was a slightly odd mix to me. I mean, going from Verdun through the Normandy format to Jean-Paul Belmondo, the French actor.
And then he also said liberté, égalité.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. But I think the references, to me, they just didn't tie up quite so fluently, if I'm honest, as other speeches that I've heard him do of this kind. But yes, of course, liberty, freedom, and brotherhood was something that he came back to and said that this was indeed something that Ukrainians were fighting for as well. But to be fair, that could be said really in a similar way to any Western country, in a slightly different language, but with the same sort of impact. So I don't know. I think, as you said, he's been addressing a lot of parliaments. There's Japan as well. There's a lot of strain. He's as well as doing this, making a lot of decisions, day to day on how to handle all these different military situations as well that are constantly evolving. So, I mean, there's a lot of strain and stress on him, as he said, almost exactly a year now. A month. Freudian slip. A month into this war.
And we have, obviously, he's due to speak again tomorrow to NATO leaders at a summit with Joe Biden. He is set to attend. It's been a month, but a month that's gone by just like this, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, if we sort of zoom out and look at, what else is going on, the NATO summit is obviously key because that's something that Zelensky will use to try to galvanize more support. Jens Stoltenberg, the NATO chief, gave a press conference earlier this afternoon about what more NATO is doing in terms of helping Ukraine. And he did mention more weapons, but he didn't specifically address the air defense systems that Zelensky keeps asking for, that he mentioned again in this address to the French Parliament. There was no mention of that specific point by Stoltenberg, simply a repeat of NATO ruling out a no-fly zone. But at the same time, Stoltenberg did talk about more reinforcements of existing NATO members. That, of course, doesn't really answer Zelensky's demands, given that Ukraine is not a member of NATO. But clearly, darling, we also shouldn't forget that a lot of these things are happening without being trumpeted in public, because there are limits to what NATO can publicly say that it is doing in terms of the actual detail of arms transfers, how those are coming. It would obviously be and sort of from their point of view, an unwanted security risk to go into that kind of detail to the media.
And one of the things that Stoltenberg did say was their priority is to keep this conflict within Ukraine from spreading. So that's obviously going to be front and center as NATO leaders meet in Brussels tomorrow. Thank you very much for that, Armen. Armen Georgian there.